Hi everyone, this video is to walk you guys through your first essay assignment, and in this essay you guys are looking at one of the works that you guys read in this unit. So it's either Whitman, Chopin, or Zit Khalasa. Um, so you guys read what is essentially the emerging voices post-war, or a selection I should say of emerging voices post-war. So what you're going to do is look at the one of the authors and works that you read in this unit and write a short analysis of that work, examining at least one literary element within the work. So it could be something like symbolism, tone, metaphors, similes, um, dialogue, whatever it might be. You're going to want to incorporate one of the elements related to the author's life or the larger historical impact as well. Look at the context around the work. So look at the political, social, or economic changes that were taking place during this time period. And think about how that author and that work shows those changes. So how does, for example, Whitman's Song of Myself break from previous literary norms, and what is it celebrating? What is it talking about? Same thing with Chopin. How is she advocating for the idea of independence for women, or the criticism of the marriage construct? And Zit Khalasa, how is she bringing certain voices to the forefront or certain experiences to the forefront as a native writer who has experienced these difficulties during this sort of westward expansion time? Um, so think about those changes that are taking place, how the work does or doesn't fit with this quote American identity that's emerging at this time. And then how does that authoring work help shape these new ideals? So, how does, for example, Chopin's story help shape this ideal of a independent or liberated woman? How does Whitman's Song of Myself celebrate this idea of individualism or westward expansion, whatever it might be? Same with Zit Khalasa. How does her literature and her standing as an author ultimately help influence the rights of Native people? Now, very, very importantly, this is not it's not a history essay. It's not a biography. This should in no way become those things. This is a literary analysis essay. Make sure you are keeping your focus on the text. Use evidence from the text to show your audience what you're talking about. So, for example, if I'm talking about Whitman, focusing on the themes of individualism or symbols related to that, I will pull in specific quotes that show me that. If I am, for example, talking about the symbolism found in Zit Khalassa's work, say, for example, the telegraph pole or whatever it might be, I'm going to pull in quotes that show my audience what I'm talking about. Don't rely on paraphrasing. Direct quotes are always the strongest forms of evidence. And make sure that you are, like I said, keeping the focus on analyzing the literature as a piece of literature, not as a biography, not as a historical essay. So look at the lectures to see how to analyze these pieces of literature as literature with additional context around the biographical or historical situation. That should be secondary to the actual analysis of the piece of literature. So your essay is not long. It is only 1.5 to 2 pages in length, and it's due on Sunday, October 27th by 11:59 p.m. You are always welcome to write more. You just can't write less. If you write less than the minimum, then you will have points taken off. Everything's checked for plagiarism. MLA formatting is required, so that means that you have 1-inch margins all around. You have double spaced, appropriate font. That's Times Roman, Cambria, Calibri, Arial. You have a header in the top left corner, which has your name, the instructor's names, the date, and the course and section number. Page numbers on the top right. You always have a title, which gives your audience some understanding of what the argument is going to be about. And then, like I said, you have in-text citations for any quotes, so parenthetical citations, and you have a works cited page at the end, which lists the source material used, whatever text you're analyzing, along with any outside resources. Now, outside resources are not required for this one, but you are welcome to use them if you find appropriate ones. So ones that come from sources that are credible, published, not things like gradesaver.com or 123helpme.com, but things that come from, say, a .edu or PBS or something like that. And you guys will be assessed on making sure you have good analysis of the works. Again, keeping the focus on the literary analysis above all else. And then secondarily looking at the biographical or historical context in addition to that. Good evidence to support your claims from the source. That means direct quotes. Proper page length, MLA formatting, and citations. Again, if you need a reminder on all of this, you have resources at the top of the modules page dedicated to MLA. And the basics document as well is helpful. And make sure you have a fully developed essay structure. So that means a good introduction with a clear thesis claim, clear main ideas. Each of those ideas should be related to your thesis, which again should be related back to the primary element that you want to be analyzing, whether that's symbolism or whatever it might be. Each of those main ideas should have good analysis, as well as evidence incorporated into them from the text that shows your audience what you're talking about. And then a conclusion, which should wrap up your argument, and then should restate your thesis and your main ideas in new words. And then make sure you have a good organization of all your ideas. So some helpful ideas in writing. You can look at a number of different literary elements. This is far too many to try and cover, across one text. So I would, again, recommend choosing one primary one. That doesn't mean you can't talk about other elements. You certainly can. But again, I would keep the focus on like a primary element such as characterization or structure or something like that. So, excuse me. Within characterization, you could look at things like archetypes. You could look at the protagonist or antagonist relationship, the primary and the secondary characters, and then are they developed? Are they flat? Are they round? Are they static? You could look at literary devices like similes, metaphors, personification, flashbacks. You could also look at structures. So you could look at the dramatic arc, the rising action, the climax, the falling action. You could look at the conflict. Remember, this is man versus man, man versus society, man versus self. You could look at the point of view. So that could be first person, third person, omniscient. Why is that important? So why is it important that we can see into the mind of the character or not see into the mind of the character, right? Literary concepts like themes, motifs, allusions, and then secondarily, like I said, that historical context around the events that are happening around that time, the social or moral or ethical issues, the author's own biography, etc. So if you guys have questions about this, let me know. But otherwise, go ahead and move on. Again, I want you to choose the work that is of most interest to you, and I want you to choose the literary element or elements within that work that are most interesting to you. So that's how you have a successful argument, is ensure that you're writing about something that is very interesting within that work. Let me know if you have any questions, but otherwise go ahead and move on.